morning, Steady Path viewers. Jesse checking in for episode 3, Methods to the Madness. So, little recap from last week. Talked a lot about beginner's mind, Zen mind, and a few foundational practices to develop a meditation practice. Square breathing or box breathing, and LSD, low, slow, deep. So just a few practical tools to kind of keep present in your toolbox that are available at any time. Whether you're consciously going to sit somewhere on your meditation cushion, or you're standing in line at the grocery store, or stuck in traffic. Learning to tap into the nervous system and recalibrate it in a moment can be so crucial to help us navigate our daily stressors. And so, to think that a meditation practice is a lot like a relationship with a spouse. And there's a lot that you keep between yourselves that you do not share openly with the rest of the world. And in fact, that's what makes your relationship so special, that it's between just the two of you. And so to think of a meditation practice a lot like that, of relationship with the spouse, and that we can learn all these tools and go to workshops and seminars and build a relationship with a teacher and a community, but that we still go through our day, by ourselves in our inward journey. And so that meditation practice, it can serve us any moment, at any time, as long as we are present and cultivating that relationship with present awareness. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's something that is available any moment. And it is truly with you every moment. Just are you paying attention? So in that sense of paying attention, becoming aware of the body and the state of the mind, and then learning to cultivate that present awareness that just pulls us into the space that we occupy, and to literally create our desired future now. And that's what epigenetic speaks to, is, visualizing the future past visualization technique and cultivating that present awareness. So we manifest heaven on earth this moment. So, recapped on last week, parasympathetic nervous system, learning basic techniques to slow down, regulate the nervous system. And today, I wanted to touch on the sympathetic nervous system and activated breath work. Now, most breathwork exercises are all about parasympathetic nervous system and slowing down, learning how to regulate the nervous system, manage your stress. But to think that activated breathwork becomes a tool for releasing a storehouse of stuff that we store in our body. Leave it. And so, to slow down and then step into speeding up the nervous system with activated breathwork, it is speeding up the nervous system. You're intentionally hyperventilating to speed up things, and you might go through a series of emotional swells, and you might shake, you might shiver, you might cry, you might yell, but ultimately the goal is to keep bringing it back to the breath and the somatic experience that we are having. And so this becomes a tool for integrating with therapy, whatever modality you may be working with. But ultimately, it becomes something that you can tap into at any time and go for a breath snack, which is something of just a couple minutes, maybe even just a minute of this activated breath work can really be a powerful tool for resetting and recalibrating. But that a breathwork journey, usually done in a workshop setting, but can also be one-on-one. And I did a certification course a few years back and have been a certified yoga teacher for 13 years now. And so within this set and setting, a breathwork journey could be anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and maybe even as long as 2 hours of this kind of intentional hyperventilating. And in the process of this, it becomes like a psychedelic experience almost. Maybe you've heard of the term holotropic breathwork. And in the beauty of this is that being completely sober and free from the psychedelic effects, if you were to sit in a plant medicine ceremony, once you commit to that, well, you're in it until the substance wears off. But with the breathwork journey, if you reach a point of, critical thinking that you're tightening and not really enjoying it, and it's like becoming really painful, well, then that becomes an opportunity to just return to normal breathing, parasympathetic breathing, and to process what's coming up. But the goal is ultimately to release it, and it becomes incredibly detoxifying and flushes the body full of all kinds of metabolic wastes, and the sweat factor in itself, it's like a full body workout. So, highly recommend looking into holotropic breathwork or somatic breathwork, and of course there's various different names to it. Now, there are a few side effects, and now, generally speaking, if one were to faint, the beauty is that this practice is done laying down, so you will never fall and hit your head or hurt yourself, that you may black out for a period of time because of the intensity of what's coming up through the nervous system. And in that process, the nervous system is merely releasing that which is no longer serving it. And so we have to be the drivers in that sense and become consciously aware that we are choosing to do this. So ultimately, the goal is to stay consistent with the breath work and just allow the emotions to flow through you. There is this other side effect referred to as tetany, where your fingers and wrists and arms might even curl up into like lobster claws, and that if you try to fight it, it hurts more. And what that speaks to is that the oxygen is flooding the system in a way that the body's not used to. So this tetany is something that you really only experience, in the beginning of practicing this breath work. And once the body becomes more familiar with it, that tetany, you just kind of get used to it and you don't pay attention to it. And ultimately the goal is to feel the sensations in your body and try not to hold on to anything. And then perhaps, post breathwork journey is where we integrate and, journal and reflect, and the real magic comes afterwards. So the two parts of the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic, rest and digest, learning the tools like square breathing and box breathing and LSD, low, slow, deep breathing, to regulate the nervous system when the outside stressors are proving to be challenging. But then sympathetic breath work, this is when we're consciously choosing to do the inner work and saying, I've got something that I keep recreating, or there's something I'm feeling that I don't want to feel, and I want to learn how to release that. So this kind of breath work, this activated breath work, becomes a very powerful tool to overcome your stuff and step more into your truth. So a breathwork journey, like I said, anywhere from an hour to maybe even 2 hours, which is a lot of breathing. But a breath snack, I will demonstrate, if you feel compelled to try it with me, by all means. Now, there's lots of different techniques as to how to do this properly, one way versus the other. And I like to remind people of their own inner wisdom. And you might need to dabble and explore a lot of various techniques till you find what works for you. But with this heavy activated breath work, it's more chest breathing than it is diaphragmatic belly breathing. But that being said, the diaphragm is still, being worked quite heavily. So you can think it being chest belly exhale or belly chest exhale. But ultimately, it's basically just a big gulp through your mouth. This is all mouth breathing. And then when we release it, it is just like letting the air out of a paper bag. Like there's nothing slowing it down or restricting it. It's just releasing it. So I will demonstrate with a breath snack, and I guess I'll add a few more pieces here. So thinking of it as starting with an exhale and then going through roughly 30 breaths. Just, you don't have to count. If you want to count, if that's helpful, by all means. But then after the 30 breaths, and this goes relatively quickly, you do a big exhale and then a big inhale and hold it, and it leads to a little DMT release. So your body's going to be really tingly and you're going to feel a little buzz, and then simply integrate it and slowly release that breath. If you're familiar with Ujjayi breath, you can do that to close out with the restricted breathing in the epiglottis, with the tongue on the tip of the mouth. So 30 breaths roughly. Feeling that nice little rush, feeling the blood flowing, perhaps bracing yourself and sitting sturdy so you do not accidentally fall over and black out. And merely bask in the space. Now, you likely feel hot and buzzing and tingly and sweaty. And that's just a small dose of a breathwork journey. Now, it's available to you at any time. Sure, it might look a little silly doing that out in public, so perhaps be conscious about when you choose to do it. Maybe before you start your car or before you get out of your car. Anytime you want to recalibrate and recharge your system, if you want to wake up a little bit, it's almost like a cold water on the face. And now, on that nature of cold water to the face, this kind of breath work is often paired with cold plunging or cold exposure, because it really helps you overcome your fears. Those two practices can obviously be practiced independently, and I do both at different times, but I always do a little bit of breath work before and during my cold plunge. But these longer breathwork journeys really has more to do with the nature of releasing the storehouse of traumas, trying to heal your lineage, the stuff that you maybe have been carrying since childhood, or previous generations that have been stored in your parents' or your grandparents' DNA that gets passed off to us, that it becomes our responsibility if we are tired of the program that we're running. I'm forgetting the exact saying, but something like, we might not be responsible for what has happened to us, but we are responsible for healing it so that it no longer has power over us. And in that sense, resentment is like a poison, and when you hold on to it, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So who wants to live that way? We don't want to hold on to that shit. We want to find the forgiveness, and even if that person might not deserve it, we forgive them because we deserve peace, and to see that anybody causing harm or inflicting harm is likely coming from a place of unconscious awareness, and that we have to learn to see them as if we are their mothers or their fathers. And that's how we're going to create heaven on earth. The world of tomorrow is in our hands today. And this two-party system, in my opinion, is on its way out. And we're going to step into new paradigm ways of thinking with sociocracy and smaller intentional communities. Like, what does that look like? I'm still working on manifesting that for myself within my nuclear family and my challenges, being my dad's caretaker and strengthening my relationship with my siblings. And you know, we can live very different lives from the people that are closest to us, especially the nuclear families. And we don't have to spend time with people that we don't align with. It becomes a choice. But there becomes a threshold or a level of commitment that it's like, I don't want to push you away. I'm just going to merely shine my light. And if you don't resonate with it, then you naturally distance yourself. Or if you resonate with it, then you're drawn to it, and then we strengthen our bonds deeper. So it's okay if you don't want to spend time with some people, or if some people don't want to spend time with you. We have to learn to align with people on our frequency and to never dampen our light. And so bringing it back to breathwork, to conscious awareness, to epigenetic programming, to freeing ourself to be the best possible version of ourselves. That life truly is a gift, and we can create heaven or hell based off of our perceptual awareness. But if we don't have the awareness, well, then we might be creating an egregore of a prison that we are not happy with. So, worth reflecting on, worth doing the inner work. It might be uncomfortable. It's never necessarily easy, but it gets easier the more you show up to yourself. And it can be fun when you start to see through the layers of the ego and how we can so easily get attached to things and people. And then when things don't go our way, meaning we couldn't control the outcome, then we put ourselves into that mental prison. But happiness is a choice. I choose to be happy because it is good for my health. I think I've covered my bases in the next week's intro to Methods to the Madness. Why am I calling it intro? Episode 3 of Methods to the Madness, I'm going to share a little bit more about cold plunging and how that has been really impactful for me the last five years. I've been doing daily cold showers and cold plunging in the winter. So we'll talk more about that next week. Let's see. So thank you for the comments. Thank you for showing up and joining me. And I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. So keep showing up to yourselves, do the inner work. Don't ever dampen your light. Be steady, my friends.